The metal was still hot. Zira could feel it burning around her arm. She tried not to scream, but the pain was sharp and deep. Her right arm was stuck inside the broken machine. The silver metal had melted during the explosion. Now it had hardened again, trapping her arm like stone. Alien doctors stood around her. Their faces were calm, but their eyes showed worry. One of them spoke in a cold voice. "There's only one solution." Zira already knew what he would say. "We must cut the arm." The words felt heavier than the machine holding her. Cut the arm. Her breathing became fast. Her heart pounded hard in her chest. She was a young engineer, not a soldier. She had been trying to fix her father's old energy core when it suddenly exploded with light and heat. She did not even understand what went wrong. Now she was going to lose her arm. She closed her eyes. She imagined waking up without it. No more building machines, no more flying ships, no more following her father's dream. Tears rolled down her face. "Prepare the tools," the doctor ordered. A sharp metal cutter was placed on a table nearby. And then the door opened. Everyone turned. A human walked into the room. He was taller than most aliens there. His clothes were simple. His hands were dirty with oil and grease. He did not look like an important scientist. He looked like someone who repaired broken things in small workshops. His name was Daniel Hayes, a human engineer. He looked at Zira first. She expected to see fear in his eyes. Instead, she saw something else. Focus. He then looked at the machine around her arm. He walked closer. The alien guards tried to stop him. "This is restricted," one guard said. Daniel ignored him. He bent down and studied the hardened metal carefully. He touched it gently. He listened to the soft humming sound still coming from inside the machine. "It's still active," he said quietly. The doctors looked confused. "That does not matter," one of them replied. "The metal has fused around her arm. We cannot separate it safely." Daniel finally looked at them. "Did you try everything?" The room went silent. The doctors did not answer. Zira watched him. She had heard stories about humans. They were emotional, reckless, too stubborn for their own good. But she had never seen one this close before. The head doctor spoke again. "Human, the machine uses unstable fusion energy. If we try to open it again, it could explode. The safest choice is amputation." Zira felt sick when she heard that word again. Amputation. Daniel shook his head slowly. "We don't cut what we can fix," he said. His voice was calm, not loud, not angry, just certain. The doctors exchanged looks. "This is alien technology," one said. "You do not understand it." Daniel gave a small smile. "Maybe not," he said. "But broken machines speak the same language everywhere." Zira stared at him. Was he serious? The metal around her arm was thick and solid. It looked impossible to remove. Even the best alien engineers had failed. But this human was not looking at her arm. He was looking at the machine. That scared her more. The machine suddenly made a loud crackling sound. Blue sparks jumped across the surface. Zira cried out in pain as heat spread through her arm again. The doctors stepped back. "See," one shouted. "It is unstable." Daniel did not move away. He placed his hand on the outer shell of the machine. The heat burned his skin, but he did not pull back. "Power is building inside," he said. "It's not dead." Zira forced herself to speak. "It will explode again." Daniel looked at her for the first time since entering. His eyes were steady. "Not if we calm it down." Calm it down? It was a machine, not a living thing. But Daniel moved quickly. He asked for tools, not surgical tools. Engineering tools. The doctors hesitated. "If you make it worse, she will die," the head doctor warned. Daniel nodded. "If you cut her arm, part of her dies anyway." Zira felt something change inside her chest. No one had said that before. To the doctors, she was a patient. To the council, she was a small accident. But this human saw her as a whole person. The machine gave another violent spark. The lights in the room flickered. Daniel leaned closer and studied a small crack near the base. His eyes narrowed. "That's strange," he whispered. "What?" Zaira asked weakly. "This wasn't just an explosion," he said. He carefully brushed away some burned metal from the crack. Under it, he found something small and dark. A device, tiny, hidden. It did not belong to the original machine. Daniel's face became serious. "This was activated from inside," he said quietly. The doctors looked confused. Zaira's heart skipped. "What do you mean?" she asked. Daniel looked at her again. "It means," he said slowly, "this might not have been an accident." The room felt colder. Someone had done this on purpose. The machine suddenly gave a loud warning sound. A deep hum filled the air. Energy levels were rising again. The head doctor grabbed the cutter tool. "We cannot wait anymore," he shouted. "Step away, human." Daniel did not move. Instead, he reached for a small scanner from his belt. "Give me 10 minutes," he said. "You don't have 10 minutes," the doctor yelled. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Then give me 5. Zaira looked at him with fear and hope mixed together. He could fail. He could make it worse. He could lose her arm anyway. But for the first time since the accident, she felt something different. Maybe, just maybe. Humans did not give up that easily. The cutter never touched her arm. Because the lights suddenly went out, the room fell into darkness. Only the machine around Zaira's arm was glowing now. A deep blue light pulsed from inside the metal. Slow, steady. Like a heartbeat, everyone froze. The doctors stepped back in fear. Daniel did not. He watched the light carefully. "That's not overload," he said quietly. The head doctor looked at him. "What are you talking about? The core is unstable." Daniel shook his head. "No, it's responding." "Responding to what?" Daniel did not answer immediately. He looked at Zaira. Her breathing was fast again. Her eyes were wide with fear. The machine's glow became brighter. Pulse, pulse, pulse. Daniel spoke softly. "Zaira, look at me." She tried to focus on him. "Slow your breathing," he said. "In and out." The doctors stared at him like he was crazy. "This is science, not emotion." One of them snapped, but Daniel ignored them. "Slow breaths," he repeated. Zaira did not understand why she was listening to him. But something in his voice felt safe. She took a slow breath. The blue light dimmed slightly. The room went silent. One of the doctors gasped. Daniel's eyes sharpened. "Again," he said gently. She inhaled slowly. Exhaled slowly. The pulse became weaker. The head doctor looked at the energy scanner in shock. "Energy levels are stabilizing." Daniel stood up straight. "It's not just a machine," he said. "It's reacting to her." The doctors exchanged confused looks. "That is impossible," one said. "It is mechanical." Daniel pointed at the small hidden device he had found earlier. "That part is not original," he said. "Someone modified the core." Zaira felt cold. "My father built this machine," she whispered. "He would never make it dangerous." Daniel looked at her carefully. Maybe he didn't. The room became quiet again. Daniel asked for a full scan of the machine's internal system. The alien doctors hesitated, but now they were curious. The energy was no longer rising. The explosion risk had dropped. They brought a holographic scanner. As the scan moved through the metal, a strange pattern appeared inside the display. Thin wires. Micro circuits. Something small and hidden deep inside the fusion chamber. The head doctor stared at the image. That is not standard design." Daniel folded his arms. "It's a signal receiver." Zaira's heart began to race again. The blue glow flickered brighter. Daniel quickly looked at her. "Slow breathing," he reminded. She forced herself to calm. Down. The light dimmed again. Now everyone in the room understood. The machine was reacting to her emotional state. The hidden device was amplifying it. This is not an accident, Daniel said quietly. It's a trigger system. The head doctor looked pale. A weapon? Daniel nodded slowly. Maybe not meant to kill. Maybe meant to trap. Zira felt fear crawl through her mind. Why would someone trap me? She whispered. Daniel looked at the hologram again. Who had access to this machine? She swallowed. It was in my father's private lab. And your father disappeared 3 cycles ago, Daniel said carefully. Zira's eyes widened. The connection was forming in her mind, but she did not want to believe it. The scanner suddenly beeped loudly. A new signal appeared on the hologram. Hidden device was sending a transmission. Someone is activating it remotely, one doctor said in shock. The machine around her arm tightened slightly. Zira cried out in pain. Daniel moved closer. Block the signal, he shouted. The doctors rushed to their consoles. They tried to jam the frequency, but the signal was strong. The blue glow turned darker. More intense. Daniel's mind worked quickly. If it feeds our emotional spikes, he said, then panic is giving it power. That makes no sense, the doctor replied. Daniel looked at him sharply. It doesn't have to make sense. It just has to work. Zira felt tears in her eyes. I can't stay calm, she said. It hurts. Daniel leaned closer. Listen to me, he said softly. Pain is information. It's not control. You are stronger than it. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. She tried again. Slow breath in, slow breath out. The machine loosened slightly. The doctors stared in disbelief. It's responding to neural stress levels, one of them whispered. Daniel nodded. The device is reading her biosignals and converting them into energy. The head doctor looked horrified. So the more afraid she is, the stronger it becomes. Yes, Daniel said. The transmission signal suddenly changed pattern. The hologram showed a countdown. 0 hours 4 minutes and 59 seconds. 4 minutes and 59 seconds. What is that? Zira asked. Daniel's voice became serious. It's a timer. For what? He looked directly at her. For the next phase. The room felt colder than before. The doctors tried to disable the signal, but the system was locked. The hidden device had encrypted alien code. Even the best experts in the room could not break it fast enough. Daniel stepped back and thought. His eyes moved from the hologram to the machine, to Zira. Then something clicked in his mind. If we cannot fight the signal, he said slowly, we change the source. The doctors looked confused. What do you mean? Daniel met Zira's eyes. We stop giving it what it wants, the timer continued. 0 hours 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Zira's heart pounded again. Daniel noticed the glow growing brighter. He placed his burned hand gently over the metal. I need full access to the neural interface, he sighed. The doctors froze. That interface connects directly to the machine's emotional sensor grid, one said. It could shock you. Daniel did not hesitate. Good, he replied. The head doctor stared at him. What are you planning? Human. Daniel took a slow breath. I'm going inside. The timer reached 0 hours 3 minutes and 58 seconds. And for the first time, even the alien doctors felt something they rarely experienced. Fear. Because humans did not solve problems the normal way. The machine spoke. Not with sound, not with words, but with light. As the countdown reached 3 minutes, the blue glow around Zira's arm changed shape. It was no longer pulsing like a heartbeat. It was moving in patterns. Lines of light ran across the metal surface like veins. Daniel noticed it first. That's not random, he whispered. The alien doctors were focused on the timer floating in the air. 0 hours 2 minutes and 57 seconds. It's preparing to release energy, the head doctor said nervously. But Daniel stepped closer to the metal shell. "No," he said. "It's communicating." Zira stared at him. "Communicating?" She asked weakly. Her arm still burned, but the pain was different now. Less sharp, more like pressure. Like something was pushing against her skin from the inside. Daniel studied the glowing lines. "They're forming symbols," he said. One of the younger alien engineers moved closer with a scanner. "You're right," she said in shock. "It's structured code." The glowing lines suddenly formed a shape. A symbol. Zira's breath stopped. "I know that symbol," she whispered. Everyone looked at her. "It's my father's mark," she said. Silence filled the room. Daniel turned back to the machine. "Your father designed this core?" "Yes," Zira said. But he disappeared before he finished it. The light shifted again. Another symbol formed. Then another. The young engineer gasped. "It's not attack code," she said. "It's a message." The timer continued. 0 hours 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Daniel's mind raced. "If this was a trap," he said slowly, "why leave a message?" Zira felt something strange in her chest. Hope. The glowing lines suddenly focused around the place where her arm was trapped. The pressure increased, but the heat dropped slightly. The machine was changing its state. The head doctor stepped back nervously. "This is unstable behavior. We must proceed with removal now." But Daniel shook his head. "Wait." The room trembled slightly as energy shifted inside the core. The young engineer projected the decoded symbols onto the air screen. The translation began to form. It was broken at first, then clearer. "Zira, if you see this," her heart stopped. "That's his voice pattern," she whispered. The translation continued. "Do not be afraid." The room went silent. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. "This wasn't built to hurt her," he said quietly. The timer changed. 0 hours 1 minute and 38 seconds. The numbers slowed slightly. The head doctor noticed. The countdown speed just decreased. Daniel stepped even closer. "The hidden device," he said. "It tried to override the system. But the original program is fighting back." The alien doctors looked confused. "Machines do not fight," one said. Daniel gave a small smile. "Human ones do." The light suddenly flashed bright white. Zira cried out, not in pain, but in shock. She felt something inside her mind, a memory, a voice. Not outside, inside. "Stay calm, little star." Her father used to call her that, little star. Tears filled her eyes. "I can hear him," she whispered. The doctors looked alarmed. "That is impossible," one said. "There is no audio output." Daniel looked at the neural readings. Her brainwave patterns were changing. The machine is linked to her, he realized. It's using memory mapping. The translation screen updated again. The core reads emotional frequency. Only trust will unlock it. The timer reached 0 hours 1 minute and 2 seconds. The numbers slowed again. Daniel's heart pounded. "The hidden device triggered the lockdown," he said, "but the core still recognizes her." Zira closed her eyes. The pain was fading. The pressure remained, but it no longer felt violent. It felt controlled. "Dad," she whispered. The glowing metal around her arm began to soften, not melting, but shifting structure. Like liquid crystal, the doctor stared in disbelief. "It's changing molecular density," the young engineer said. "That is advanced adaptive metal," Daniel nodded slowly. "He built a safety system," he said. "It activates under emotional stability." The head doctor looked shocked. "You mean the solution was not force?" Daniel finished the sentence. "But trust." The timer reached 0 hours 0 minutes and 30 seconds. The countdown stopped. Completely. The room froze. The hidden device inside the core sparked violently. Black smoke came from deep within the machine. "It's burning out," one doctor shouted. Daniel stepped back slightly. "Because it lost control," he said. The white glow turned soft. Blue again. The metal around Zira's arm loosened. Slowly, carefully, with a quiet mechanical sigh, the structure opened like a flower. Her arm slipped free. She gasped. It was burned red but whole. The hidden device inside the chamber exploded with a small pop of sparks. Dead. The room fell silent. No countdown. No overload. No explosion. Zira stared at her arm in shock. She moved her fingers. They moved. Daniel let out a long breath he didn't know he was holding. The alien doctors stood speechless. The head doctor looked at Daniel. "We were ready to cut it off," he said quietly. Daniel looked at Zira. She just needed someone to listen, he replied. Zira slowly stood up, weak but alive. She looked at the machine one last time. Her father had not left her a weapon. He had left her a test. And the galaxy had just learned something dangerous. Alien technology may be powerful. Alien science may be advanced. But humans look for meaning when others look for knives. And sometimes that makes all the difference. The alarms did not start with sound. They started with silence. Every screen in the medical chamber suddenly went blank. No data. No numbers. No readings. Just black. Zira felt the metal around her arm tighten again. Not hard, not painful, but controlled, like something had taken full command. Daniel looked at the dead screens. "That's not failure," he said quietly. The head doctor stepped back. "We lost all monitoring systems." "No," Daniel replied. "They were shut down." The blue glow around Zira's arm faded into something darker. Not bright energy this time. Shadow. Lines of black light moved slowly across the surface of the machine. They looked almost alive. Zira swallowed. "It feels different," she whispered. "How?" Daniel asked. "It's not angry anymore." The doctors exchanged worried looks. One of them reached for the cutter tool again. "We cannot wait for another surprise," he said. "This machine is unpredictable." Before he could move closer, the machine reacted. A thin beam of light shot out and burned the cutter in half. The room froze. Daniel did not look surprised. "It's protecting itself," he said. The head doctor stared at him. "Protecting from what?" Daniel looked at Zira. "From us." The metal shifted slightly. Not tighter, not looser. Just aware. Zira felt a strange warmth now. Not burning. Not painful. It felt like someone holding her hand. Her heart slowed. Daniel stepped closer again. "You said it doesn't feel angry," he reminded her. She nodded slowly. "It feels scared." The alien doctors looked at each other. Machines do not feel fear, one said sharply. Daniel tilted his head. "Maybe not fear," he said, "but maybe it predicts danger." He looked at the destroyed cutter on the floor. "You threatened it." It responded. The room became quiet. The head doctor crossed his arms. "This is dangerous thinking, human. You are treating a fusion core like a living creature." Daniel gave a small shrug. "If treating it like a weapon failed, maybe we try something else." Zira looked at him carefully. He was not afraid, not of the machine, not of the explosion. Risk. He stepped forward until he was standing right beside her trapped arm. The metal surface was still hot. The air shimmered from the heat. The doctor shouted, "Do not touch it." But Daniel did something none of them expected. He placed both of his bare hands flat against the burning metal. The room gasped. The smell of burned skin filled the air. Zira's eyes widened. "You're hurting yourself," she cried. Daniel's jaw tightened, but he did not pull away. His hands trembled slightly from the heat, but his voice stayed calm. "It's okay," he said softly. He closed his eyes. The machine reacted instantly. The dark lines slowed. The surface temperature began to drop. The doctor stared at the thermal scanner. "It's cooling." One whispered. Zyra felt the pressure around her arm soften again. Daniel opened his eyes. He was breathing slowly. Controlled. Steady. It reads emotional patterns, he said quietly. But it also reads intent. The head doctor shook his head. That is theory. There's no proof. Daniel looked at the metal. There is now. The machine's surface changed color again. From dark blue to soft silver, the glow became gentle, almost peaceful. Then something unexpected happened. A new image formed above the core. Not code, not symbols, a memory projection. The hologram flickered into shape. Zyra gasped. It was her father. Not fully clear, just a recorded echo, a digital imprint. He stood in his lab, smiling slightly. If you see this, the projection said, it means the failsafe has activated. The doctor stared in shock. Daniel slowly removed his hands from the metal. His palms were red and burned, but he ignored the pain. The projection continued. This core was never meant to destroy, her father said. It was designed to test character. Zyra's heart pounded. Test what? She whispered. The projection answered. It responds to aggression with resistance. It responds to fear with pressure. But it responds to courage with release. The room was silent. The head doctor slowly lowered his surgical tools. Daniel gave a small, tired smile. So brute force was the wrong answer. The projection flickered again. There will always be those who choose the knife first, her father's voice said, but the future belongs to those who try to understand. The image disappeared. The machine gave one final soft pulse. Then the metal around Zyra's arms slowly unfolded. Not breaking, not melting, opening, like petals of a mechanical flower. Her arms slipped free gently. She stumbled slightly, and Daniel caught her before she fell. The room was completely silent. No alarms, no countdown, no overload. The fusion core powered down peacefully. The head doctor stared at the machine in disbelief. We were seconds away from removing her arm, he said quietly. Daniel looked at his burned hands. Sometimes, he replied, the problem isn't the machine. Zyra looked at her arm, red, shaking, but still hers. She looked at Daniel. You knew, she said softly. He shook his head. No, he admitted. I just refused to believe the only answer was destruction. The alien doctors stood there, stunned. They had advanced tools, advanced science, perfect calculations. But they had missed something simple. Patience, empathy, courage. Zyra looked at the silent core one last time. Her father had built more than technology. He had built a question. And only one species in that room had answered it correctly. Because humans do not start with the knife. They start with hope. The machine did not open this time. It locked tighter, not around Zyra's arm, around the room. Heavy metal panels dropped over the doors. The lights turned deep red. A low vibration moved through the floor. The core had activated a second protocol. Daniel looked up slowly. That wasn't a release sequence, he said. The head doctor checked the emergency panel. We are sealed inside. Zyra felt the metal around her arm shift again. It was not painful, it was firm. Controlled. Like a grip. Then the hologram returned. But it was not her father this time. It was a wall of text, fast, moving. Alien code layered over alien code. The young engineer stared at it in shock. This is not just a safety test, she whispered. It's scanning. Scanning what? Zyra asked. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Russ, the room went quiet. The machine was not trying to explode, it was evaluating. A thin beam of soft white light moved across the room. It passed over each alien doctor. Nothing happened. It passed over the guards. Nothing. Then it stopped in front of Daniel. The beam brightened. Zira felt the metal around her arm vibrate gently. The hologram shifted. One sentence appeared in clear translated text. External intelligence detected. The head doctor looked confused. We are all intelligent. Daniel shook his head slightly. It doesn't mean intelligence level. The text changed. Again, non-origin design pattern found. The young engineer gasped. It recognizes you as non-alien, she said. The beam of light began to circle Daniel slowly, scanning, measuring. The air felt heavy. Zira watched in fear. What is it doing? She asked. Daniel did not look away from the light. It's comparing problem-solving structures, he said quietly. That makes no sense, the doctor replied. Daniel gave a small smile. It makes perfect sense. The hologram shifted again. Now 2 columns appeared in the air. Left side, alien response model. Right side, unknown response model. Data filled both sides rapidly. Zira saw words flash by. Efficiency, probability, risk avoidance, preservation of majority. On the right side, different words appeared. Adaptation, improvisation, emotional risk, persistence. The room was silent except for the low hum of the core. The machine was comparing 2 ways of thinking. The head doctor finally understood. It is studying behavioral logic. Daniel nodded slowly. It's asking which mind to trust. Zira's heart beat faster. Trust? For what? The machine answered. The text changed again. Primary control access required. The alien doctors froze. No, the head doctor said immediately. We cannot allow a human to access the core. Daniel looked at the sealed doors. You don't have a choice, he said calmly. The machine's beam tightened around him. The temperature in the room dropped. Zira felt the metal around her arm loosen slightly, but only when Daniel stepped closer. The message changed. Candidate must demonstrate resilience. Before anyone could react, the beam of light struck Daniel directly in the chest. He dropped to one knee. Zira screamed. The doctors rushed forward, but were pushed back by an invisible force field. Daniel gritted his teeth. The beam was not burning him. It was sending something into him. Data, images, equations, alien engineering language far beyond human design. His mind raced. He saw complex starship systems, energy cores, neural networks. It was too much. Blood dripped slightly from his nose. Stop it, Zira cried, but Daniel raised one hand weakly. I'm okay, he forced out. The hologram displayed a new reading. Cognitive overload, 62%. The machine was testing him. Not physically, mentally. It was pushing information into his brain to see if he would break. The alien doctors watched in shock. No organic mind can process that volume of data, one whispered. Daniel's breathing became heavy. Images flashed inside his mind. He did not understand most of it, but he did not try to. Instead of solving everything, he searched for patterns. Instead of controlling it, he adapted to it. Instead of fighting the flow, he flowed with it. His human brain did something simple. It filtered, ignored the noise, focused on survival. Logic, the overload reading dropped slightly. Cognitive overload, 48%. The machine adjusted the beam. More data, more pressure. Daniel's body trembled. Zira felt tears in her eyes. Why is it doing this? She whispered. The young engineer answered quietly. It is testing persistence. The overload reading climbed again. 71%. Daniel let out a painful breath. He could stop. He could give up. He could collapse. But humans did not give up easily. He focused on one thought. Zira's arm, not the alien code, not the complexity. Just the goal. Fix the problem. Protect the person. Everything else was background noise. The overload number suddenly froze. Then it dropped rapidly. 39%, 22%, 8%. The beam softened. The machine recalculated. The hologram changed again. Adaptive logic confirmed. The force field disappeared. Daniel fell forward, breathing hard but conscious. Zira felt the metal around her arm unlock one final layer. The message appeared clearly above the core. Primary control granted to human engineer. The alien doctors stared in disbelief. The most advanced core ever built by their species had just chosen a human, not because he was stronger, not because he was smarter, but because he refused to break under pressure. Daniel slowly stood up. His voice was tired but steady. "Now," he said, looking at the core, "let's finish this." The machine's glow softened. For the first time, it was no longer testing, it was cooperating. And the galaxy was learning something new. Alien minds calculate. Human minds endure. And sometimes, endurance is the key that unlocks everything. The machine was calm. Too calm. The red lights faded. The doors were still sealed, but the air felt different now. The fusion core glowed in a soft silver light. Zera's arm was still trapped inside, but the metal was no longer tight. It was waiting. Daniel stood in front of the core. His face looked tired, but his eyes were sharp. Primary control granted. The hologram repeated. The alien doctors stared at him. "You have access," the head doctor said slowly. "What will you do?" Daniel did not answer immediately. He was looking at something new on the screen. Hidden layer of data had opened. Not just about the core, about the network. His expression changed. "This isn't just a lab machine," he said quietly. Zira swallowed. "What do you mean?" Daniel enlarged the projection. Lines stretched outward from the core, like a web. Connections. Signals. Coordinates. The young engineer gasped. "It's linked to the planetary defense grid." Silence. The fusion core was not only powering this room. It was connected to orbital cannons. Shield systems. Satellite weapons. Zira felt cold. "If this explodes..." Daniel finished her sentence. "It won't just destroy this building." The hidden device inside the core, the one that had tried to override it earlier, suddenly sparked again. It wasn't dead. It had been waiting. The silver glow flickered into deep red. Warning symbols filled the air. External override reattempting control. The head doctor stepped back in fear. The hacker is still active. The web of connections on the screen began to pulse. One by one, defense satellites outside the planet powered up. Daniel's heart raced. "This isn't about Zira anymore," he said. The hidden attacker was using the core as a gateway. Asterisk if control was taken. The entire defense grid could be turned against the planet itself. Zira felt the metal around her arm tighten again, but not violently. It was responding to the system stress. The countdown appeared again. Not 4 minutes. Not 5, 30 seconds. The doctors panicked. "We must cut the power." One shouted, "If we shut it down suddenly, the defense grid will misfire," the young engineer warned. "It could trigger orbital strikes." Daniel's mind worked fast. He had access, but the system was alien. Complex. Layered. He did not try to understand every part. He searched for the simplest solution. "Zira," he said quickly. She looked at him, scared. "Yes?" "This core was built by your father, right?" "Yes." "Then it follows his logic." She nodded slowly. Daniel zoomed into the core's emotional interface map. The same system that reacted to fear. To stress. To intent. The defense grid was now reading threat levels from the core. The hacker was trying to push panic into the system. Daniel realized something important. "It's not forcing control," he said. "It's tricking the system into thinking it's under attack." The alien doctors froze. "So the defense grid is preparing to defend against nothing," Daniel finished. The countdown reached 0:19. Zira's breathing became fast again. The red glow grew stronger. Daniel grabbed her free hand. "Look at me." She did. "Do you trust me?" She hesitated only for a second. "Yes." "Then stay calm, no matter what you see." The hologram suddenly changed. The room lights flashed violently. Outside, distant explosions echoed from orbit. The hacker had activated test fire. The defense grid was charging weapons. The countdown reached 0 to 12. Daniel placed his burned hand back on the core. He closed his eyes. He did something no alien engineer would ever do. He stopped fighting the system. Instead of blocking the hacker signal, he lowered the threat response. He sent one command through the emotional interface. Not code.intent. Stand down. The core hesitated. The red glow flickered. The hacker signal pushed harder. Warning sirens filled the room. 008. Zyra squeezed Daniel's hand. She forced herself to breathe. Slowly. In. Out. In. Out. The core reacted to her calm state. The threat level reading began to drop. The defense satellites paused mid-charge. The hacker signal spiked violently. 005. The metal around her arm grew warm again, but not painful. Focus. Daniel concentrated. Harder. He did not think about the galaxy. He did not think about orbital weapons. He thought about one simple truth. The system protects what it values. So he changed what it valued. Through the interface, he shifted the core's primary priority from defense protocol. To preservation of life in proximity. The hacker signal clashed against the new directive. OK. Lawn 03. The red glow and silver glow fought across the surface like two storms. The alien doctors could only watch. O:020 closed her eyes and whispered softly, "It's not under attack." The core registered her emotional pattern. Threat level decreasing. 001. The countdown froze. 0 o'clock. Silence. The red glow vanished instantly. The web of satellite connections powered down one by one. The orbital cannons returned to standby. The hidden hacker device inside the chamber burst into sparks and melted completely. Dead. The room lights returned to normal. The doors unlocked. Zyra felt the metal around her arm finally release fully. Her arm slipped free gently. No explosion. No destruction. No lost limb. Just silence. Daniel stepped back slowly, breathing hard. The alien doctors stared at him in shock. "You just stopped a planetary defense system with emotional stabilization," the head doctor said. Daniel gave a tired smile. "No," he said softly. "I reminded it what it was built to protect." Zyra looked at her arm. Then at him. The galaxy had almost burned itself because it trusted weapons more than wisdom, but a human had chosen something different. Not force. Not fear. Understanding. And sometimes understanding is stronger than any army. 3 days later, the story had already spread across the planet. Not about the explosion, not about the defense grid almost firing, but about the human. Zyra stood on the balcony of the high science tower, looking at the city below. Ships moved through the sky in perfect order. Lights blinked in clean lines across silver buildings. Everything looked peaceful. But she knew how close it had come to destruction. Her right arm was wrapped in healing fabric. The burns were fading. The doctors said she would recover fully. Fully. That word still felt unreal. Behind her, the council chamber doors opened. Inside, the highest alien leaders were gathered. Scientists, military commanders, policymakers, and one human engineer in simple clothes. Daniel stood quietly in the center of the room. He looked uncomfortable. Zyra walked in and stood beside him. The head counselor spoke first. "Human Daniel Hayes," he said in a calm but serious voice, "you interfered with classified technology, overrode a defense network, and altered a primary core directive." Daniel nodded slightly. Yes. The room was silent. Zyra held her breath. The counselor continued. By our laws, that level of interference could be considered treason. Several commanders shifted in agreement. Daniel did not defend himself. He did not argue. He simply said, "If I did nothing, millions could have died." The room grew quiet again. One of the military leaders stepped forward. "You acted without permission." Daniel met his eyes. "You were about to cut off her arm without permission from common sense." A few council members looked offended. But Zira saw something else in their expressions. Uncertainty. The head counselor raised one hand to silence the room. "Explain your reasoning," he demanded. Daniel took a slow breath. "You built systems that respond to threat with force," he said, "but you never taught them how to recognize false fear." The young engineer who had helped during the crisis stepped forward. "He's correct," she said. "Our defense grid amplified emotional data from the core without verifying its origin." The council murmured quietly. Daniel continued. "You designed everything for efficiency," he said. "Cut the arm to save the body. Fire the weapon to stop the enemy. Remove the risk." He paused. "But sometimes the risk is misunderstanding." Zira looked at him with quiet admiration. He was not insulting them. He was challenging them. The head counselor studied Daniel carefully. "You are saying our logic is flawed?" Daniel shook his head. "No, your logic is precise. But it lacks patience." Silence filled the chamber. Zira finally spoke. "My father built that core to test more than engineering skill," she said. "He built it to test character." The council turned toward her. She raised her healed arms slightly. "You were ready to remove this because it was the fastest solution." She looked at Daniel. He searched for the hardest one. The room remained quiet for a long moment. Then something unexpected happened. The head military commander stepped forward. He removed the energy blade from his belt and placed it on the table in front of Daniel. A sign of respect. "In our culture," he said slowly, "we honor those who protect the planet." He looked at Daniel directly. "You protected it without firing a single weapon." One by one, other commanders placed symbols of authority on the table. "Not surrender, recognition." The head counselor nodded slowly. "Human Daniel Hayes," he said, "your actions prevented planetary catastrophe. You saved this world." Daniel looked slightly embarrassed. "I just fixed a broken system," he replied. The counselor shook his head. "No," he said quietly. "You corrected our thinking." Zira felt something shift in the room. For the first time, the galaxy's most advanced civilization was admitting something difficult. They had knowledge. They had power. But they did not always have perspective. The counselor turned toward Zira. "And you," he said, "will oversee the redesign of the emotional response protocols." She blinked in surprise. "Me? You understand both the technology and the lesson." Zira nodded slowly. She understood now. Technology was not just wires and energy. It was intention. Outside the chamber, news drones were already broadcasting. Across star systems, "Human engineer prevents planetary defense collapse." Other species watched the recording. Some were confused. Some were impressed. Some were uncomfortable, because the truth was simple. Humans were not the strongest species. They were not the most advanced. But they had something rare. They questioned the first solution. They resisted easy destruction. They endured pressure without breaking. Later that evening, Zira found Daniel alone on the balcony. He was looking at the stars. "You're a hero now," she said softly. He gave a small laugh. "I just didn't give up." She stood beside him. "In our system," she said, "we value precision above all." He nodded. "And in mine," he replied, "we value stubborn hope." She smiled. The stars above shimmered quietly. The galaxy had always believed that progress came from stronger weapons and faster decisions. But that day, something changed. A new idea began to spread. Maybe strength was not about cutting away problems. Maybe strength was about facing them fully. Zira looked at her healed arm again. It was not just saved, it was proof. Proof that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is not energy. Not logic, not fear, but the simple human refusal to quit. And from that day forward, whenever alien councils faced impossible choices, someone would always ask one question first. What would the human try before using the knife?